Welcome back to another Double Digit Angler episode. This is helpful knowledge and listen to stories about kayak bass fishing. Today we have a special guest by the name of Chad Brock. He is a social media guru for Jackson Kayaks, and he takes the time to deliver quality content, and we're going to dive deep into that during this podcast. So if you guys have time, please stop by his IG. It's in the description, YouTube description. And he's also a Z Pro Lithium teammate. Speaking of which, this episode is powered by Z Pro Lithium. Z Pro Lithium is serious power for serious anglers. So if you need a battery, check out the website, zprolithium.com. Link is in the description. Let's go ahead and invite our guest on the show right now. What up, Chad? How's it going?
Good, guys. Good to see you. We're out here in dark, North Carolina. We've got Jameson Redding and Jeff Little over there. We're all hanging out, getting ready for the Red Crest show tomorrow. We've all got booths set up. Got booths set up, and we're out here doing our thing. So pumped about it, and pumped to see everybody at the expo tomorrow.
How's the atmosphere at the expo? Have you had any cool stories with people coming up to you guys? What booth do you guys have up?
So we've got the Jackson Kayak booth for me and Jameson, and then Jeff will be in the Torpedo booth, just across the way from us. And there's all the kayak brands for the most part. Seem like they're here. We got to walk around a little bit today. Show officially opens tomorrow, but it was nice to see the setups going on. We got to see some of the new cool stuff from PowerPole that they've got out with their new motors, and just catch up with some old friends that we don't get to see very often unless we do these shows.
Nice. I have a group of friends too. It's KDD, Kayak Ditch Day, and hopefully we'll be able to make it out to either a Red Crest or a Bassmaster Classic. That would be nice. Well, I'm gonna have to make plans for next year to do that for sure.
All these expos, man, all the companies that are involved, they put a ton of effort into them. The booths, they all look phenomenal, and it's great.
Yeah, for sure.
I showed up at 1, so I didn't technically help set up our booth. It was done when I got there, but I built a table while I was here, and it was phenomenal.
Nice.
That was my contribution.
Sweet. What do you guys have up in terms of like Jackson Kayaks? What models do you have up at the show?
So right now, our main 3 models that we've got sitting out on racks for everybody to see. We've got a Take 2 that is completely decked out for fishing. It's got a little Lowrance rigged up. Jameson actually just set it up the other day. He's got a Torpedo on there that him and Jeff set up, and the thing is phenomenal. It's a piece of artwork. We've got the Knarr FD sitting right next to it, which is another piece of artwork that really shows off that Mark IV drive. And then our brand new Coosa X is sitting out there right next to those 3. And then we've got the U-Pick, the Bite, and some other boats sitting there as well. But those 3 are our big feature boats that we've got on display right now.
Now, is the Take 2? I know the Take 2 it's meant to sit 2 people. Is it similar to a Jackson Knarr in terms of length?
So the Take 2, actually having the Knarr and the Take 2 both, the Take 2 is just a little bit longer than the Knarr, so it really lets it gap the waves and different things like that. Now the Take 2 also can go to a single person boat. You can run it tandem, or you can run it single. And man, people always talk about our old big rig Jackson kayak would haul the gear. But this Take 2,
I need to plug in my headphone again. Hold up a sec.
You're fine.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah,
so say that again one more time. So it can go to one person.
Yeah, the Take 2 can go to a single boater. And then you've got tons of deck space to lay that thing out.
What are we talking about?
Storage.
What are we talking about in terms of like width? Because I've had fish flop off the boat constantly because the gunnel's too shallow sometimes. or it's just like
Yeah.
I want to be able to stand everywhere, you know?
Oh, the Take Two is a standing machine. Take
Yeah.
Two's running about 36 inches wide, right? Or is it 38? 38 inches wide.
Oh, okay.
Um, so
Nice.
it's a good wide boat. The gunnels on the Take Two probably aren't as tall as they are on the Knarr,
Mhm.
but it's a great standing platform. It really floats
Okay.
high in the water column because of its width and because of its length. 37 inches. Jameson just looked it up.
37 inches wide. And
Yep.
what is the overall length of the Take
The
Two?
overall length is 13 something, isn't it? Yeah, we're terrible at this. We
Almost 14. Almost
It's
14,
almost
pretty much.
14. Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay.
13 feet 9 inches. Jameson had to look. We have to look
Okay.
it up. We do this every day, but yet we still have to look it up. Just
Mhm.
it fishes really good. It's actually probably our most surprising boat in our lineup, as far as what its capabilities are.
Yeah, I noticed that the back seat, you could use
Hmm.
that as, let's say if you wanted to just make it a one person kayak, the back seat gives you so much front deck space if you utilize the back seat. And then you
Yeah,
could just reposition it so it's sitting a little bit more far forward, right?
yeah, it'll set. You can just it's a matter of 6 screws, two T bolts and 4 screws, and you can move
Mhm.
that seat directly dead center to the middle of the kayak and really balance it out well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that
So
looks like a good boat. Someone had it rigged up, and I was just like, "What's that kayak?" Because if
there
I didn't
there's a
need a pedal drive,
yeah, there's a dude on Instagram that he has got his just decked to the nine, and you
yeah,
see him fishing some tournaments and stuff like that. He's got live scope and just everything underneath the sun rigged up on
hmm
it. We're going to unveil Jameson's tomorrow at the show, and it's going to be really cool. I don't have any pictures to share with it right now, but it's
nice.
an awesome boat.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
on
be
his
on the
Instagram.
lookout for that one. Oh, it's
Yep,
on his Instagram. What
yep.
Instagram is that?
At Jameson Redding.
At Jameson Redding. Let me just go
Yep.
and write that down real quick because I kind of want to check it out.
Yeah, it's a cool boat, man.
Um,
It's if somebody's not looking for a pedal drive and they really want to run the motors, that Take Two is phenomenal for it. Whether you want to run a bow mount or the stern mount torpedo system on the back.
right, both great motors.
Hmm.
If you're running river stern mount, I mean, I personally, based on what I saw from the Russ Snyder video, I was like, stern mount's the way to go when you're running river. But then if you're
Hmm.
out on the West Coast, you just can't go wrong sometimes with that spot lock in open water.
Yeah, locking
Um,
down and really being able to cast around to an area.
exactly, especially if you run into a miracle school where you can catch like 20 fish in 2 hours or something, you know.
Hmm. Yep, really let you hone
Um,
in on what you're doing.
For sure. So, where, when, how did you get started in fishing?
Oh, so my fishing career, or if you want to call it a career, my walk through fishing actually started with a motocross slash ATV wreck.
Mhm.
So I was cruising through the woods wide open, and I could literally, I had a racing four wheeler, and I had the front fenders cut off of it. So I literally seen the rock in slow motion hit the front tire and flipped me over the bars. Ended up, I ran over myself in a weird way,
Wow.
and woke up with the only thing that kept the chain and the sprocket from cutting my face apart was my helmet and my skid plate. So, it scared me. I rode back to twisted my knee up pretty good, rode back to the house and put them on the trailer and then took them home and sold every one of them. From that point on, I was kind of looking at something to do. Some buddies of mine just took me out fishing. And, I'd been fishing my whole life as far as, bluegill fishing, just bobber fishing, things like that.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until that kind of introduced me into some bass fishing, and we went and sat down at the river and tried to catch the biggest catfish that swam in the river and that kind of thing. And you know, one tackle box and one rod purchase turned into a monster, and it was just. I think Mike Iaconelli says it best. Every angler has a collector's gene in them at some point, and I
Mhm.
I truly believe that because once you start collecting fishing tackle, it's just on to the next thing, on to the next thing. You have to have this color, and that color, and you
Yeah.
know it was one of those things that I enjoyed a lot, and I just kept getting deeper and deeper into it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a little bit, we started a Instagram page called, or not an Instagram page, it was a Facebook page called Bass Crazy 365.
Mm-hmm.
Met several individuals through that. You know, I was fishing big boat stuff and doing tournaments that way. But these kayak anglers, one of them I got to talk to today, Stuart Venable. Um, you know, they just kept posting these pictures, and it's like, man, why are all these kayak anglers following us? Where are they coming from? And, you know, this is like 2011, 2012. You know,
Okay.
um, so all these guys keep posting different things to us, and it just looked cool. It looked like something I needed to try. I was working with Bass Pro Shop at the time, and I was back then I was the young kid at Bass Pro Shop. So
Mm-hmm.
they asked me if I wanted to try out one of their Ascend kayaks. Me and my buddy Zach Bailiff, that I do the Orion podcast with, we jumped in
Mm-hmm.
the Ascends, and our kayak journey began. And you know, it's just been something that's it's been an amazing experience. At first, it was a new way to catch a bass that I hadn't caught a bass before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just something that hooks you, man. I mean, getting out there and being so up close and personal with nature, number one, and then the fish, number two, letting them drag you around a little bit, man. That's a whole lot of fun.
Oh yeah. You should definitely come if you ever find yourself in California, let me know because I should take you out to the Delta because when
Oh,
they
I would
spawn
love to
over
fish the
there,
Delta.
oh my gosh, it's like I mean, you fishing a little
Yeah.
tiny spinning rod over at the Delta, you better hang on. That's for sure.
The California Delta, and you know, I still follow pretty heavily, you know, Elite Series guys like Chris Zaldane and some of them, and
Mhm.
just hearing his stories and some of those past, and seeing, you know,
Yep.
Oliver, Big Bash Dreams, and all those dudes, and it's just like, man,
Mhm.
I just want to go to the California Delta one day and just chuck some big swim baits and just see what happens.
I forgot who's the Spro guy. Who runs Spro? One of
I know
the
Brandon Polinick runs the big Spro glide bait that I like to call it Clyde the Glide. I've got a couple of those. I actually don't
who's
even
the
remember the real name.
who's the other guy? I forgot his name. He's more
Can't think
on
of it off.
oh man, I forgot his name. But he won flipping like a small tiny plastic punching
Mm-hmm.
back in the days. But it was always Ish Monroe and
Yeah.
um all the locals, Skeet Reese. I
Yep.
remember Skeet Reese would throw like an LV 500 over there. It was D Thomas. Those were the days. That's crazy though, is because you paid your dues way earlier in the sport of kayak fishing. Because I know in 2007, 2008, I feel like float tubes and
Yeah.
pontoon boats in my area were more popular. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
see like a kayaker out over at Clear Lake fishing. I didn't
Right.
spot out one of them, you
Yeah, I
know?
think you know, when you talk to some of the older folks, like Jim Salmons is one of them that's out your way, and you know, they kind of gravitated towards those big ocean kayaks and some of those
Mhm.
models that they had out then, and that was your ocean fisherman. It really started moving heavy. The big boom, as we call it, was when the KBF launched their $100,000 tournament that they had back in the day. I can't remember the year exactly, but you know, we seen such an influx of new kayak fishermen at that time, and I think that was really one of the things that drove the sport um, forward.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, we was all still young in our kayak fishing careers back then too, and you know,
Yeah.
it blew the sport up, and it's continued to grow every single year since. It seems like.
Would you say that was like closer to 2015, 2014, or even earlier than that?
When was the
Earlier or
big
later?
KBF for the 100,000? You guys remember? 2018. Jeff said.
2018. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Torpedo. Tor- Jeff Little and Torpedo sponsored that one.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Nice.
So. But yeah, that was I feel like that was one of the big boom moments because it got a lot of people interested. That kind of money was something that kayak fishing hadn't yet heard of. But I
Hmm.
mean, you've got a lot of pioneers there that come along before, and you know, it really made kayak fishing what it was back in the early days. Jameson's one of them, Jeff's one of them, Drew Gregory was one of them. You got guys like
Hmm.
Noah Heck that really doesn't do much in the kayak fishing realm anymore. That was a big deal. Bridget Howard, which is now Bridget Vallette, she was a big inspirational Jackson angler back in the day, and
Hmm.
those people like that really inspired me to want to get out there and pursue kayak fishing because they made it look so cool with the early GoPro pictures and just some of the places that they were going.
Right. With the being a social media manager for Jackson Kayaks, do you have time to fish at all? Any tournament
Um,
circuits?
so tournament circuits the last couple years, well, I guess really since COVID, I really haven't been on the tournament scene much. I've kind of stepped away and been doing just focus on the social media management and my job at Jackson Kayak. We still fish daggone probably every weekend, all
Oh
summer
wow.
long.
Yeah.
Being in Indiana, we kind of have a window of fishing. It's really the water. Indiana's a weird state, so it can either be super warm and mild like it has been this winter, where we get like
Hmm.
2 weeks of ice from our big cold blast that we had, and just have open water the rest of the time.
Right.
Um, or we can be really cold all winter and have ice all the way up to March.
Hmm.
But realistically, the window for us is March through November, December. I've caught fish on Christmas Day several years here. Um,
I know you guys over in Indiana, like you guys could deal with the cold. Like I went over the KBF NC this past one
yeah.
and it was freezing cold for me. But I know some of the like Merlin and Joe that I met at the
Hmm.
docks, and they were just like
Yep.
in their
Yeah.
sweatpants, their sweat jacket, and they're just like, this is nothing to me.
Yeah. Indiana fishing, and it's tough. I mean, you've got guys, Jacob Wheeler. We've had two KBF national champions, or well, we've had Mike Elsa come from Indiana.
Mhm.
Several good anglers have come from Indiana. It's a great place to learn how to grind. Because there's
Mhm.
days where you absolutely have to grind. It's just the way it is.
Mhm.
But yeah, so for me, I feel like that's one of the things that makes me want to fish tournaments again is that
Mhm.
grind. And with Jackson Kayak this year, actually one of my pet projects that I'm working on is the USA Bassin JK Trail. So I'll be stepping back into that and fishing a lot of those events here in Indiana. I'm actually going to run one of the trails just to help out and you know make it bigger than what we want it to be. Probably at the end of the day, we know we've got 10 different states on board right now. It
Mhm.
blew up really fast, and we're really hoping it continues to grow. We just didn't know it would grow that fast out of the gate. So, there's a lot of logistical things that we're working on. The guys at USA Bassin have been phenomenal in getting that trail set up and managing it. And then, working with me as part of the marketing team and social media management at Jackson Kayak. So it's been a cool experience so far.
I know that they got the right guy on board because when I see, and not to toot your horn, when I see your social media, I'm like, man, no one's really putting out except for that bass fishing dude. Like,
Hmm.
and I'm sure I'm missing out on a lot of accounts that I should follow, but in terms of kayak bass fishing, I don't see the amount of post production that you do, that bass fishing does. I mean, right here I have you know a $4,000 camera,
Yep.
mirrorless A7S III that I shoot content almost on every single one of my events. We're working extra hard. People don't know the post production that we actually got to do. So I definitely know
Yeah.
that they got the right guy on board in terms of setting up a trail. I just can't wait till one of the trails go live, like kind of similar
Yeah.
to the MLF or Bassmaster.
Yeah, I think that's something we was talking about a little bit before.
Hmm.
It brings a likeness to these anglers and these folks out there. They get to see them in action. Whereas
Hmm.
we're right now we're just kind of nested with um, following people either on iAngler or Tourney X or whatever else, Fishing Chaos,
Hmm.
one of those apps, and it's not personal as
It's
much
not.
as Bassmaster Live or MLF Live or anything else that's
Hmm.
showing the fishing tournaments live. Heck, even a TV show adds personality
Hmm.
to something. It's visual, and I think one of these days if kayak fishing gets there, and I'm sure it will at some point. I think that's when you'll get to see some real stars rise, and you'll get to see some personalities come out on camera.
I know you'll get someone wearing a tutu, a pink tutu, while
Yeah,
catching bass.
it could be
Um,
me,
yeah.
especially hanging out with the people that I hang out with. It very well
I
could be me out there wearing the pink tutu.
I'd sponsor that show.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be neat to see where it goes and how the evolution progresses from here out. And it just takes people stepping up and taking those steps. While the kayak fishing industry seems big, it's still relatively small. A lot of people still, talk and know each other and the different things like that.
Mhm.
So,
So, one of my other questions is, where can kayak anglers start creating more quality content? I'm not saying that there isn't quality content out there, because story comes first when it comes to making
yeah.
vlogs and taking photos. But how can they step it up a notch for 2023? Like, where can they find that knowledge?
Well, I think the biggest place to find that knowledge and learn a lot of the do's and don'ts is probably YouTube, and it's not necessarily geared towards kayak fishing. It's just geared towards content creation in general.
Hmm.
Those technical tips I think still apply, whether you're fishing, whether you're playing frisbee golf or whatever. Tips,
Right.
tricks, and different things like that. Man, they go such a long way. And that's what a lot of people go to YouTube for. We go to YouTube. It's a search engine. It's one of, if not the second largest search engine out there, next to
Mhm.
Google, which they're combined. So
Yeah.
put the two together and you've got a mega powerhouse. um,
Right.
it's just like what we're talking about now.
Mhm.
um, you're going to be able to go back, research your podcast, look at it, and you'll see cliff notes of the different things we talked about, and it'll grab different icons and different things. So I think YouTube's a great place to for anybody to focus some time and learn and study content creation and different things like that. And I think
Right.
one of the biggest things that any of us could tell you is focus on the little things. Not pumping Jeff in any way, shape, or form, but focus on the little things. It's as simple as taking product photography, and I know you know this. It's providing a good, clear image to somebody that is usable. That goes a long way, and I think all of us would tell you that very thing. It's building that. Those are the things that get you in the door to help start building those relationships.
Definitely, definitely. And that leads us to our next question. As working at Jackson Kayak as a social media manager, firsthand, like, what do companies look for in terms of future sponsored anglers? What do you exactly look for? What kind of character? If you painted an image of an angler that you're going to sponsor, what would that angler look like? Or not
So
look like, be?
that's a big question. I think you've got
Mhm.
In 2023, moving forward, especially, you've got really two different avenues. You've got tournament anglers and you've got content creators. You need the
Hmm.
tournament anglers because they're out there doing the things on the water. They're showing the boat off in front of different people like that at
Hmm.
events and whatnot. Um, but then you also need the content creators that are, tournament anglers a lot of times don't have time to take photos. I mean, not everybody's Scott Martin, you know, where they can just multitask and do that. Some of them really need to focus on what they're doing, and they don't want to take pictures. They don't want to give up spots or show you their baits or anything like that. And that's
Yeah.
that's OG, and that's part of tournament fishing.
Yep.
So that's where the content creator path is very important because you need those folks that are willing to go out there, take the photos, focus on the product photography, and help create that lifestyle that is kayak fishing, and build your brand around that lifestyle.
Hmm.
So those are probably the two biggest avenues. Um, I think, and this kind of mixes into both, but you need people that are willing to go out and pound the pavement, work shows and be a good human being with the natural public, with the public. Shake
Hmm.
hands, kiss babies, whatever you got to do to make sure that you're representing the brand in a positive light. I think those things go a long way. Um,
Right.
things like trash talk, selfies, stuff like that. If you're in the group pages bashing other people and putting other brands down, I think um, one of the big things that we talk about at Jackson Kayak is, um, we want to lift everybody up. I don't care what boat you're in. You and I fish in a different boat, but if you win a tournament, I want to be there. Jackson Kayak wants to be there to congratulate you on your win. You know,
Hmm.
um, and that's important to us. Kayak fishing is like I said, it's a very small community, and we do. I think anybody that's in the industry would tell you that we do see a lot. We see a lot more than what people I think realize.
Hmm.
So, you know, behave yourself in the group pages if
Yeah.
that's
So,
something you're looking
yeah.
for.
I mean, it's brutal. There's some group
It is.
pages that I need to leave, because I'm like, this is too negative, and
Oh, for sure.
they're just bashing people. Like, there was a recent post that I saw on Facebook. I won't list out the name of the group, but there's this guy that posted that he flipped his kayak,
Hmm.
and people were like, "That's impossible. I've never flipped that kayak model. Never. Like, how were you able to do that?" And there was
Yeah.
like 13, 15, 20 comments generated right there just saying like it's impossible to flip that kayak. There's no way.
I
And
think
I was just like,
anybody that's been around kayak fishing long enough will tell you it's not if, it's when.
yeah. Yeah,
I
and
mean, things happen.
every kayak is flippable, period. If you're out on the water,
Period.
if you're in Mother
Yep.
Nature.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Mother Nature she can be brutal all on her own. And if it's the same post I'm thinking it could have been, Mother Nature probably had a pretty big hand in that tussle.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, you know, every kayak can be turned over. It's just part
It's
of
a
it.
matter when, not
Yeah,
if.
it is.
You're right.
It is. I've done it.
Yeah.
We've all done it. I mean, at some point in time, the longer you're in it, it just takes that moment of confidence, where you get that overconfidence and then something
Mhm.
happens and yeah, that's usually when you end up on your head.
Yeah. No matter what, I tell everybody, like someone asked me about the Bonafide,
Hmm.
and uh I won't state the name, but he was on the heavier side.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I do recommend you hopping on a bigger boat, like either the
Yeah.
Jackson Knarr or the Hobie PA-14.
Hmm.
Um, but if you did purchase the SS-27 like you did, 127, just make sure you wear a life jacket. And
Yeah.
always wear a life jacket, always have a paddle to steer. Don't leave the
Hmm.
paddle inside your car, even if you have a motor, etc.
Yep.
Safety comes first.
Batteries die and props get broke.
Yep. And electrical issues like wiring goes bad all the time.
Absolutely, man.
Um, so Let me see. So let's get down and dirty with the Jackson Knarr. What's the
Okay.
story on the kayak? Like, was it made to kind of compete against the Hobie PA14, or was it just kind of like, hey, like we're gonna make something that could carry a bigger weight capacity? What was the truth behind building the Jackson Knarr?
So the truth behind building the Jackson Knarr was performance based. We
Hmm.
wanted a kayak that was long enough to handle big waves. Um,
Okay.
we wanted a kayak that was faster.
Hmm.
We wanted the drive system to be better than it's ever been.
Hmm.
Um, but when we look at the Jackson Knarr compared to, say, our old big rig, they're two different, completely different animals. The Knarr is it's a Porsche, it's a Lamborghini,
Hmm.
whereas the old big rig, man, it's exactly what it was. It was a cush riding semi truck. It was ironhide. If you want to
Hmm.
put it in transformer terms, and the Knarr is jazz. The, it's a high performance boat. It's a lot of the things that our team asked for with the internal rod storage. Um,
Hmm.
the length of it, obviously. The rocker was something that helps battle surf in the ocean. So it lets you have the ability to get out there, put in through the surf, which a lot of boats can't do. You have to wait out so far, or you get tossed and have to go back through. But we wanted the Knarr to excel in that area. So it had a lot to do with the whole design that Tony Lee, our designer that designed the boat, put into it. And it's just, it that boat moves so much differently than a lot of boats out on the market, especially with what we call the rocker. It has, a little bit more tilt to it, which lets it turn a little bit faster, which lets it move a little bit faster through the water, and what keeps it up over the waves rather than, diving under the waves.
Oh, I see. Does it have good secondary stabilization?
Yes, it does actually. I'm a little bit on the heavier side, and I don't struggle with the stabilization at all.
Hmm.
Um, some people that are used to the flatter boats, um,
Hmm.
they get a little timid about it because they maybe don't completely understand the rocker concept behind it yet.
Hmm.
But the more time that you spend in it, the more comfortable you get, the more you see what it can do. You see that it's, a speed machine and different things like that. I've been fortunate enough. We fished a tournament back in November, the first part of November last year, and we all took off at the ramp at the same time. The only one I couldn't outrun was the one that had an 1103 on the back of it, and it
Yeah.
it hooked out of there. And as far as everybody else, I passed an old town with a trolling motor, the Minn Kota trolling motor in it, blew its
Yeah,
doors
I
off,
think I
blew out.
mean
Yeah,
like
blew out
those
the
old towns. Yeah. Those old
yeah,
towns are very stable. Very stable. That's more of your like flat boat,
yeah,
but
exactly.
also it's slow. Like you could see
Yep,
all the other brands with the motor on it go past, fly past them, you know.
yep.
But they're a great boat. Like I'd say, like it's one of those boats that you could stand on forever.
Well, and that's the thing,
Hmm.
for the money and the development that go into all these brands, not just Jack
Right.
and Kayak, they're all really good boats these days. And,
Yeah.
they've all got performance enhancers to each brand that, set them different than the brand next to them. And, the
Right.
NAR's just one of those things that is it a Hobie PA 14? No. Is it a Jackson Kayak big rig? No, it's not built to be. It's built to be a high performance kayak. And we've got a lot of guys like Matt Ball out there running them on the trails, and they absolutely love them.
Hmm.
I absolutely love mine. I pedal mine. I don't have any motors or anything like that. I run the Z
Hmm.
Pro 30 amp hour, 12-volt power my fish finder, power my yak power lights, button lights
Hmm.
that I've got all the way around the boat, and I run my power pole off of it. But for the most part, for me, you know, I'm able to cruise 4 miles an hour in that boat without even trying. And
Oh
then,
wow.
if If I kick it up a notch, man, I hit five, no problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that boat just cruises, and that's me with a tournament load, 6, 7, 8 rods, and a tackle box full of more than I probably need at a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's also about finding balance, I think, in a lot of these boats anymore, and that's something Jeff really does with Torpedo and setting these boats up. He looks for the balance points in these boats to get maximum speed out of them. And I think,
Yeah.
even if we're pedaling or paddling, setting our boats up, balancing them out, weighing out all our gear and stuff like that really goes a long way to maximize the performance in these kayaks.
Yep. Are you gonna go 1103 anytime soon?
Nope, probably not. So for me, I still fish big boat tournaments. Actually, still fish the USA Bass in big boat tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
technically. But for me, I look at the big boat tournaments as, that's when we used motors and the different things like that. So kayak fishing for me is a different space.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy not using a motor. There was something with kayak fishing to me that was appealing about the struggle. The fact that I
Mm-hmm.
have to take myself from point A to point B. I have to micromanage an area to the best of my ability, make good decisions on my time, because even with the motor as kayak anglers, we all still have to have good time management to get
Mm-hmm.
to and fro where we're going. But
Yep.
it's me against Mother Nature in a lot of ways, and I like that aspect of kayak fishing.
Nice. More minimal too. You don't gotta hook
Yeah,
up another thing to, you don't need to drill anything. You don't need to add another battery. Make sure that battery's charged. Make sure your 30 amps charged.
yeah,
It's all great and all. Um, but I could see where having motor could be beneficial. I could see where not having a motor can be beneficial too.
yeah. And I think that's one of the things that really makes our space great for kayak fishing.
Mhm.
It's we look talking about 2012 and stuff like that, man. You used to have a lot of these group pages that were just dedicated to rigging, man. Guys cutting up PVC pipe
Mhm.
and bungee cords and color coordinating their boats. And man, it was really cool to see some of these concoctions that people came up with back in the day. And, you
Yeah.
know, I think that's the old spirit of kayak fishing, and it's still there. We've got a lot cooler stuff through Yak Attack and
Mhm.
Railblazer and some of these other brands out there. Even the kayak companies themselves make some pretty cool attachments now, um,
Yeah.
that really let you make these boats however you want. They're completely customizable, and
Yeah.
that adds to that adds to somebody being able to take the boat and go make it what they want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. It gives them that extra thrill. Like one of my
Yeah,
buddies, Chris Cabral, hook a brother up on IG. He used to build trains,
yeah,
and tracks and everything. And
hmm,
so because he doesn't do that anymore and he works, long hours at 2 a.m. all the way up to 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, like his personal time is going to his garage and kind of figuring out, hey, how can I wire up dual graphs on my kayak? How can I add a switch for my black box, or
hmm,
make it more, I put my how can I cut a piece of foam and put my battery like underneath my seat. Like it gives them kind of like a
yeah,
joy to like figure out how they want to build up their ultimate machine. But
yeah,
then there's some guys that are just like, look, the least thing I don't want to worry about rigging up my machine. I just want
right,
something that can get on the water so I could just start fishing, because if anything, I have more of an addiction trying to find these bass and spending more time on the
yeah,
water looking for them.
yep,
So it's like, but that's great for the sport because
yeah,
there's new Facebook communities now.
yeah. And we're all, I think, as humans, we're all tinkerers in ways, and we're always
Hmm.
trying to find a way to make something better. And it's just like a little kid building Legos. you want to keep putting together the Legos, but after you build what's on the instructions, you want to take those Legos, tear them apart, and then build whatever's in your imagination. And kayak fishing, these boats are really just with all the attachments and different things you can add to them. They're
Mhm.
just a big Lego set.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just a little boy just working in the garage, you know.
Exactly, and we never, as 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 humans, we never really grow out of that, and that's a good thing. It shows
Mhm.
that there's still imagination out there as a
Yeah,
people.
for sure. Um, what is the worst conditions you face? Like, can you tell me a story about the worst conditions you face in Jackson, Knarr?
So the worst conditions I've faced in that particular boat, just the
Mhm.
wind, in that particular boat. Um, you know, I fished in one all last summer, and fished in one early fall, and then here early spring going into this year. And I think the biggest thing is just battling gusty winds, bigger two
Mhm.
foot, 3 foot rollers, and different things like that. And that boat, performs well for me in that space. As far as being really super cold, I've been blessed thus far and not had to have it out in the stupid cold or anything like that, or stupid
Mhm.
rains or snows or anything like that. I've just gotten lucky thus far to not have to endure any of those type of conditions.
Yeah.
But
Tournament
it's my big water
fishermen have to deal with that.
boat. Oh yeah, yeah, and content creators do too. If
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, and the conditions I think sometimes tell the story in that space as well. So
Mhm.
it's just we've just gotten lucky. Every time we've hit the water, we've had fairly decent weather and
Nice.
not had any big major downpours. So I'm sure that'll change soon enough. Knock on wood. So I'm sure I got a big thunderstorm coming my way.
You're in Indiana, so I don't
Yeah, it
foresee
rain,
that coming.
dude. You can walk across the street and have different weather in Indiana.
Yeah.
So
What's
we
your
got a
best
cold front
story
daily.
what's your best story as a bass angler?
Man, there's a lot of stories, and I can, with all the time that I've got in the sport now, I can still see fish that I've lost visually in my mind. I can,
Mhm.
tell you about times we went to this place, went to that place. I think the fish that probably stands out the most to me, some of the fish that stand out the most are probably on Del Hollow.
Yeah.
Fishing in, you know, 40 foot, fishing a 40 foot deep spot that rises up to 20 and dragging that jig, a big 3/4 ounce jig in reverse and
Mhm.
hooking into a big deep water, nasty, mean Del Hollow smallmouth in a
Mhm.
kayak was probably one of my greatest memories. And I think it's just enhanced by the fact that, Del Hollow is known for having the world record smallmouth. And it's just like a little bit of that nostalgia to it that just
Mhm.
makes it even better for me as far as fishing a deep water spot and 3/4 ounce jig and a medium,
Yeah.
or well, 3/4. No, it was a heavy action, 7.3 heavy action rod. Um, Fishing that jig, and it was all the things that most smallmouth fishermen don't think about. We think about the Ned rigs and drop
Mhm.
shots and stuff like that, but I'm a big Mark Zono fan. He's probably my spirit animal. Um, and man, just throwing that big old 3/4 ounce jig out there in a place like that and catching big nasty smallmouth for over 4 pounds is pretty cool.
So do you know the guy out there? Do you know Daniel Perry?
I do not.
No?
I do not. I've
Okay.
never had the pleasure of meeting.
He texted me when I was over at Kentucky Lake or on my way there, and he was
Mhm.
like, "Hey, if you want to stop by Dale Hollow, I could show you like what it's all
Oh yeah.
about. If you want to break your
It
PB."
it's an awesome place, man. But the part that you may not like being from California is the best part of Del Hollow is in December, January. When
December,
it's
January.
yep, when it's colder, that is one of the premier times to fish Del Hollow.
Really?
You can go back and look at Zona shows actually fishing that jig. He's out there in January, December.
Hmm.
Then the Tennessee Bass Nation always holds a big to do tournament down there that I've fished before, and it's an awesome event, man. Some big fish are caught, and And Del Hollow doesn't just have big smallies, man. It's got big largies, and it's just a cool place. And winter is the time to fish it.
Are you talking about 5 pound smallmouth to 6 pounds?
Oh yeah. Um, you'll see there's a plethora of 18-inch and above smallmouth in there right now. They
Wow.
actually have a has done really good with preserving that lake and the
Hmm.
crappie population for that matter. They've got a really good slot limit on Del Hollow. They've got good crappie. I think have to be over 10 inches to keep them. So they've done some really good things to help bring that lake back to its glory. Um,
Nice.
is the PB is the next world record in there? Probably not. With the introduction of
Hmm.
gobies and stuff like that up north, I think you'll see that broken up there eventually. Um,
Yeah.
the
What is it?
I think
St.
if you
Clair? You
St.
think St.
Clair,
Yeah.
St. Clair, I think Erie could do it.
Erie.
St. Lawrence
Okay.
River could do it. You know, St. Lawrence
Yeah.
River probably stands a really good chance. Um,
Mhm.
but the shot, and I don't remember the year. It's dated. This information's dated a little bit, so don't hold me to it.
Mhm.
They actually did an electroshock therapy at Laurel Lake in Kentucky, which is north of Lake Cumberland and Dale Hollow, and
Mhm.
actually come up electroshocked up the world record, next world record smallmouth. And I want to say that was 12, 13, somewhere in there that they'd done it. So that
Wow.
fish could not be alive. But, it's another deep water highland reservoir over here in the Appalachia area that's got some big smallmouth in it that's not really talked about.
Now, what's the world record over at Del Hollow?
What is it? Is it
How big was that?
11? Is it
Oh
11?
my gosh. 11? Wow.
It may be. Let's look. I have to look it up, man. It's been too long since I've actually world.
That guy, that whoever caught it must have been psyched out, like completely flabbergasted.
So he was still alive. Yeah, 11 pounds 15 ounces.
Hmm.
Um, he was still alive. If you get on YouTube, anybody that wants to check him out, actually, um, Kentucky Afield always puts out a show. They put it out on the local area networks, but then it's on you. They stream it on YouTube, and they actually have an interview with him, talking about the world record smallmouth that he'd caught. So Kentucky Afield, for anybody that wants to check that out, they actually have a pretty great show
I
that
said
they put on in the
Kentucky
area.
Field.
Yep,
Nice. I gotta look that one up too. That's the
yep.
thing
And you can
about social
consider
media. It's like we
it lasts
owe.
forever.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
And I'm
the
like,
internet changed
I'm
it.
yeah, I'm like, I feel like I don't know, half of the characters out there that actually dish out great content. Like I'll
Mhm.
stumble across one out of nowhere because I'm researching for a lake, for instance, like the
Right,
Folsom Lake coming up. And I'm just like, wow, this guy's good. This guy
right,
talks
right.
during his video. He breaks out whatever he's doing. He educates all the anglers in front of the camera. Not a lot of people do that.
No,
And,
and that's
go ahead.
important. That's
Yeah.
important. I think for a YouTube channel, and
Hmm.
it adds there again. It adds that personality and that personability to their channel that helps them relate to a person in a better way. And if
Right.
somebody gains something from it, I think that's always important.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I love it when someone goes, asking me for a tip and I share it online and they end up breaking like a top 10
Mhm.
or catching 5 after struggling for numerous months. Like that's the greatest feeling on earth.
Oh,
You know?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see that emotion come to life.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you guys want to see me falling off a kayak and and doing all sorts of stupid self-talk, and you can just go visit my YouTube channel if you don't already. But
There's probably not a kayak angler out there that's not talking to himself on the water. If they are, they're being very
yeah.
quietly talking to themselves. I think it's a fun
Yeah.
habit that we all do. Self-coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's even better when it's live, like when they actually do it on camera.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I think anybody that can get out there and do it live is, you know, I'm happy for them because there's a lot of places that I go that I can't even get enough signal to call my wife a lot of times. So there's no way I could go live.
And I'm sure she's very happy about that.
Yeah, until she's trying to call me, she is.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, it's nice having you on the show, Chad. And
yeah,
this is our first time talking face to face. So I
absolutely,
think
man.
major successful podcast. And those that are listening now live, like if you guys want to know what social media managers are looking for in terms of sponsorships, listen to this full podcast. And also we went into depth on the Jackson Knarr, so feel free to go back to the YouTube channel and watch the whole entire podcast video. You can also find this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as various other podcast platforms. But is there anybody that you want to thank, Chad, before we end this podcast?
Yeah. So I mean, I just want to obviously thank Jackson Kayak, Z Pro Lithium, Basco. Basco's a cool company. He's got some really fresh and different designs coming out in the fishing clothing spectrum. Does a lot of cool things. I want to thank my family, my marketing family at Jackson Kayak. Without those guys and believing in me and trusting me to do what I do every day, it wouldn't be possible. So, it's just a good thing, and I enjoy being out there on the water just as much as I like taking pictures. So.
It's a never-ending story, social media. You're just always thinking in the back of your head or the front of your head. You're like, okay,
it never stops, man. It's just a revolving door.
Exactly. What other content would entertain everybody online? That's like a constant thing that I'm thinking about. Like,
well, and I think some of it too, is if you're creating content, don't worry about what Dominic's doing or what I'm doing. If you're creating and that's your passion to create something that makes you happy.
Yeah, that's good.
That would be that would be my solid advice. Do what makes you happy.
Exactly. Well, we'll just leave it at that. I mean, there's tons of questions that I do want to ask you, but I'll let you hang out with Jeff Little and you said Jameson Redding, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So. You have a good time out there. Before we go, if you don't mind though, let's recognize the people in the chat. David Melton says, "Howdy fellas" from Z Pro.
Cheers, David.
Cheeto, my homie, he asks, how fast do those Jackson's Knarr go with an XI3 or NK180?
I can't tell you that. I don't know. I'm the wrong guy to ask.
What can you ask Jeff Little? How fast does it go with a 403 and a 1103?
What was the top speed on the 1103 with the Knarr? 6.7.
6.7 miles an hour with the 1103 Torpedo with a Jackson Knarr.
It was the fastest pedal drive that Jeff tested.
The fast what? Really?
The fast. Yep. It was the fastest pedal drive boat that he tested thus far.
It's faster than the Hobie PA14. Are we gonna make that a fact right now?
Yeah, I've seen the chart.
The Jackson Knarr is the fastest boat with the 1103, guys. Just standing out there.
Yep, and like I said, that just comes down to the whole performance that our crew, like Tony Lee and them guys, did in the R&D department to make this boat. We asked for it as a team, and the marketing department, or not the marketing, but the R&D team really brought that boat to life.
Nice.
It's a really cool collaboration.
Last question, and this is for me. Do you get, every time you go fishing, was there any trip that you had water in the hole?
Inside the boat? No. I've never had any. down
Never.
inside the hole, inside the hatches and all that? No, I've
Yep.
never had anything
Never.
down inside the boats. None of my
And how
Jacksons actually. I've been lucky enough to never have any water inside the holes.
and how long have you fished out of your Jackson Knarr?
So I've been fishing out of the Knarr since June of last year. I think is when I picked my first one up,
Mhm.
and now I'm in my second one.
Okay. And you had never a lick of water inside your hole.
Not down inside underneath the hatches where I
yeah.
had to like drain them out. No.
Wow.
So,
That's crazy.
yeah, that's just we've done a lot of good with those hatches and the different things like that to make sure that they're elevated. We've learned a lot over the years of doing the different things. And our R&D team, like I said, they knock it out of the park. They know how to make the water drain off those boats really well. You can really, not just the Knarr, but the Coosa X, but we just launched. You can really see the difference that boat makes and the volume and stuff like that. How the whole design just makes that boat set on top of rapids and different things like that.
I got to demo one as soon as possible. I'm not just saying that too, just because you're on the podcast. I really want to demo one.
Dude, and I think that's anybody looking for any boat. They should go out there and demo all the boats on the market and find the boat that's right for them and find the boat that fits their seat. And there's a good saying out there. There's a butt for every seat, and that's the same thing with all these boats out on the market today. There's a butt for every seat, and that's why there's so many out there. And they're all great kayaks. They all do things a little bit different, and everybody should definitely head out to their dealer. These dealers are important. They're like the local bike shop, man. Without the consumers there going in and getting that hands-on experience, learning how to get the right paddle, getting fitted for the proper life vest and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are important. It's just like getting fit for a bicycle. You get more value out of doing that and getting some in-depth knowledge than you do ordering the thing online and then just throwing a bunch of stuff on it before you ever try it out. It's always good to try out your boat and get to know them before you start going crazy with them.
Yeah, and you can learn several safety tips as well while you're there at the kayak
100%.
dealership. Like in my personal experience, I bought my own used kayak off of Facebook, and a friend of mine, the latest kayak, and I just kind of stepped onto it. And I never really asked any questions, and I was like, this should be easy. And then next thing you know, I'm in the water with my life jacket on and praying to God that I'm still alive. So I feel like going to a kayak dealership is the way to go, because they could simply give you a tip that could save your life.
Well, there's years of expertise there, and it's even stuff like a paddle stroke, that can go a long way. Jameson's actually got some tips coming out on his YouTube channel for Road Trip Angler right now that talks about different, draw strokes and different paddle strokes that you can use to, correct your boat and turn it and stuff like that. And that's stuff that, paddle shops can teach you out there out on the water and give you a good experience. Because if the boat's got pedals or a motor, learn how to paddle and adjust and do the different things like that. It's always important.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about Jeff Little's channel, is he gives you all that safety tips, what kind of equipment you could bring in order to, like in the case that you fall off your boat and it's 40-degree water, 40 or 47, you don't want to catch hypothermia in that case.
Yeah, and Jeff just did a really great video on our Coosa X with reentries. So if anybody's got questions on reentry, that is a phenomenal video to go to check out. So check out Jeff on that, and then you can check out Chris Funk has a good reentry video. The Feral one. He's on YouTube as well, and he's got some good reentry tips for some of the bigger boats out there on the market.
Yeah, us guys, we need to start using our personal name. It's so much easier finding a YouTube channel by name. Why do we got to make things difficult?
It's because we had that good idea that one time.
Yeah, it was good. Until like Chad Brock looks up Dominic Doan fishing and you can't find anything.
Yeah, you know.
Man. Yeah.
I knew where to look. So, but no, man,
All right.
I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate your time tonight, man. For everybody out there, I hope you at least took away some sort of information. I don't know what you might have gained from it, but I hope you gained a little bit of something.
All right, guys. Have a good night. I'll catch up with you guys later and stay tuned for the next episode next week.